Hey, how's it going, guys? Blue Tempest here, and welcome to my reading log for October 2021. So unfortunately, this past month I didn't get to all of the manga that I had hoped to read this month. As you guys know, with October being the spooky season, I had a list of manga series that I wanted to get to that kind of fit the spooky bill. And while I did get to some of those, I also didn't get to read some of the ones that I had hoped to read, and that is because of my trip to New York City, which if you guys are viewers of my channel, then you guys know that I did go on that trip, and it was about a week and a half that I was up there, and I didn't bring any of my manga with me. So I did read some things digitally that I will talk about later in this video. But with all of that being said, let's actually get into my thoughts on what I did manage to read this month. So to start out, I did read the third volume of Beastars. Now I did do a 3-volume rule video on this series where I talk a lot more in depth on my thoughts and feelings of Beastars. But if you haven't watched that video, then just know that I really did enjoy this read. I honestly can't wait until I can read some more of this series. And yeah, just a really cool series. Definitely check out my 3-volume rule to know more of my thoughts. And then getting into some of the spooky stuff that I did mention, I did read some Junji Ito Works. Obviously, with it being October, it was a perfect time to get into some of his series, and I did read Uzumaki and Gyo. I'm not 100% sure how to say this one, but yeah. So to start on my thoughts on Uzumaki. Now, this is probably his most famous work. I have heard a lot of great things about it, and that's why I picked it up. And getting into it, right off the bat, I gotta say the artwork is absolutely incredible. I absolutely love Junji Ito's art style. You guys have probably seen some of the panels from Uzumaki already, and if not, you've definitely seen some of his other artwork from other series, but this is one of his more longer form manga series. It's 3 volumes long in this kind of like all-in-one edition, as Junji Ito is known for his short stories. So yeah, the artwork, like I said, is absolutely incredible in this series. But what do I think about the story? Well, for starters, there's not really much to unpack here. This definitely is just a very disturbing horror manga, where there's a lot of body horror and there's a lot of just really weird and creepy situations happening to these characters. The characters themselves are not memorable in the slightest, and if you're looking for something that has, you know, a mystery to unravel or like a deeper meaning or something like that, you're not really gonna find that in this series, or really, you know, either of these series, being Uzumaki and Gyo, because the characters really don't have any sort of development to them. But with all of that being said, if you just kind of go into Uzumaki with a open mind and just kind of not really think about that, because I don't think that that's what this series is really about. This is really just a simple horror and just a very disturbing story in general. Kind of reminiscent of, you know, the campy horror stuff that you would usually get out of one of those cheesy movies, obviously with a way more artistic flair to it because of Junji Ito's artwork. Some of the things that he comes up with is just so disturbing. To get into a little bit more specifics with Uzumaki, the series is about a town that is cursed by spirals. And what I mean by that is literally anything with a spiral design or pattern to it, including things like snails and tornadoes, hurricanes, hair. And there's all these situations with these spirals, and it kind of starts ramping up more and more within this town. We follow a girl character who is in high school and her boyfriend, and yeah, just a lot of crazy stuff starts happening around them, and they're just kind of witnessing this happen, and just kind of the descent into madness that their town is going through. Each chapter is kind of like its own little short story. It's kind of episodic, but there is a path that the story goes to. Like I said before, how I like to describe it is a descent into madness with the series, and there are some elements that carry over into later chapters. So yeah, just a really, you know, solid read. Not my favorite type of story, not my favorite type of manga. Honestly, I would say with Uzumaki and also Gyo, I would give them both kind of like a 7 out of 10. I think the artwork, like I said, absolutely love it. It's incredible. I love the art style. I love the weird and disturbing scenarios in this manga, but it is lacking in the actual plot department. I did like the ending of Uzumaki a little bit more than Gyo's ending, which we'll get to. But overall, if you're looking for something creepy, this is a good read. Definitely something that is great for, you know, October. So that's my thoughts on Uzumaki. And then with Gyo, I did want to give a brief summary of this one. This one is pretty interesting as well. I actually like this more than I thought I would. Although I feel like it ends kind of weirdly. It leaves off in a place where honestly, I feel like this could have kept going. Honestly, when it ended, I was kind of like, wait, that's it? That's the ending? And like, I get it, but also, yeah, I feel like there could have been a lot more fleshed out with this story. But what there is here is pretty, you know, pretty cool. Very similar feelings to Uzumaki, but this one revolves around these fish that smell really bad. And then they kind of have these weird legs to them. So very creepy stuff. It kind of starts ramping up more and more with these kind of fish invading land, and I won't get into specifics as I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, it just kind of goes crazy, and yeah, very dark and disturbing scenes in this one as well. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on both of these works. Will I pick up some more Junji Ito? I'm not sure, maybe. I think I definitely want to pick up No Longer Human, which I've heard good things about, but aside from that, I don't know. I'm not sure how I will enjoy his short stories, so let me know down in the comments if you think I should give his short stories a shot. And I did almost forget to mention that Gyo does contain 2 short stories in it. The first one, which I did not really care for because it was like 2 pages long, so really it was just kind of like a little creepy campfire story type of thing. Whereas the second short story, the Enigma of Amigara Fault, I actually did really like that short story. It was really creepy in a different type of way, and it did kind of leave me thinking after I had read it. So I did enjoy that one, but yeah. That's my thoughts on these 2 Junji Ito works. So next up, keeping with that, you know, spooky season theme, I did start reading a couple of series that revolve around witches. Now, these aren't really horror themed or very scary or creepy series at all. But like I said, the main characters in both these are witches, and the first of which is Hat Atelier. I think that's how you pronounce the name of this series, but I finally read this first volume after having it in my collection for a bit, and I really did enjoy it. This gives me vibes of like Studio Ghibli, which I do love. Maybe a little bit of like Kiki's Delivery Service vibes. Not 100%, but you know, just kind of similar tone to it. With the main character, and I really like the fantasy world in this. I love the use of magic in this series. It's really cool, and I've just got to say that the artwork in this series is absolutely incredible. I personally think that Hat Atelier has the best paneling that I have seen in manga thus far. Honestly, the paneling goes crazy in this series, which is something that I definitely noticed more so than other manga series. So I thought that was really interesting, but I just love the flow of this series. And yeah, I'm very interested to read more. I like where the first volume leaves off, kind of with a little bit of a cliffhanger. So I'm definitely gonna pick up some more of this series in the future. The next series that I did read that's also witch related is I did catch up to Witch Watch on the Shonen Jump app. Now, as you guys can see here, this is the first volume of Witch Watch in Japanese, as Viz has announced that this series is going to stay digital only for the time being, which I think is a shame because with this series being written by the same author of Astra Lost in Space, there is a solid fan base for this series out there, and I think that this would do really well over here in the United States, but who knows, maybe if this gets an anime in the future, we'll get the manga published physically. But I did decide on reading this during my New York trip because I was looking to read something digital. So I did catch up to this, like I said, on the Shonen Jump app, and I did really enjoy it. Now, this isn't the craziest series. It's really just a slice of life comedy series. There's a lot of references. This is basically a gag manga, so there's references to other shonen series such as Hunter x Hunter and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And the cast of characters here is very cute, very wholesome. I love Nico, the witch. She is such an adorable character, and I love her relationship with our other main character, Morihito. The story of this series is basically she's a witch. She needs to be protected because there is like a curse or something bad basically is gonna happen to her. So she has these familiars that are supposed to take care of witches and kind of protect them. And so Morihito, he's an ogre, and he is tasked with pretty much being her bodyguard. And so there's a lot of wacky scenarios and just some good vibes in this series. So I definitely recommend it. Check it out if you're looking for something that is just very wholesome, nothing too crazy. There is a little bit of romance, but that's not really the main focus of the series. Really, this is just a really wholesome gag manga. So there's that. There's also a tiny bit of action as well, but like I said, not the focus. This is just a very chill read, so if you're looking for something like that, check it out. So keeping with the digital theme, I did also catch up to the first season of Tower of God on the Webtoon app. Now, if you don't know what Tower of God is, it's actually a manhwa, not a manga, which if you guys don't know what a manhwa is, it is basically the Korean version of manga. Essentially. But yeah, Tower of God is a series that I absolutely love. The anime was one of my favorite animes of, I believe it was last year that it came out, or just the year that it did come out. I absolutely loved Tower of God, and I did get into the webtoon, but I did start reading from the point where the anime leaves off. And I read about 40 chapters past of what happens in the anime, but at that time I had a lot of things going on, so I dropped it. Not because it was bad, but because, like I said, had a lot of things going on. And this was about a year ago, so even before I was reading manga. So I figured now would be a great time to actually come back, and I started reading the series from the beginning. Which actually did take a while. I've been reading the first few chapters here and there for the past couple months, but I did read a really big chunk of it during my New York trip and like on the plane and the subway and things like that. And I caught up to the end of season 1 in the webtoon, which is also where the end of season 1 of the anime leaves off. So now I still haven't reached the point where I had dropped the series before. But just to let you guys know about my thoughts experiencing the manhwa from the beginning, absolutely incredible, love it. The art starts out being really, really rough. By the time where I'm at now, it is better, for sure. Still not as good as I think it's gonna get, because I have heard that the art gets absolutely crazy with like the current chapters and stuff like that. But aside from the art, the actual plot and the characters, I was really reminded why I loved Tower of God to begin with. If you guys have not checked out this series, I would say start out with the anime. It's about 12 or 13 episodes. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. If you do like it, then I would say read the webtoon, because Tower of God, I can see this series being one of my favorite series of all time. It does remind me a bit of like Hunter x Hunter in the beginning, but it does change into its own thing. If you like that kind of series, then I would say you would really love Tower of God. A lot of the action and the power system in the series can get kind of confusing. You do get it as you read more and more, you start to understand. But even then, I'm still kind of confused, but I don't know. It's still really good to me. I really like it. And I can't wait to read more. And we're almost to the end of my reading log here. Before I get to my manga of the month for this month, I do want to talk about a manga series that I actually had in my collection and I don't have anymore because I sold it. And that series is Doubt. Now, I read the series because of the spooky season. I wanted to get into some series that are like horror themed, and I had heard a lot of great things about Doubt, but honestly, I really didn't like this manga. And it's really rare for me to say that about a series, but honestly, I think this series is pretty rough. The characters are really bland and very forgettable. The actual story as well is nothing we haven't seen before. It is kind of a murder game type of series, and the plot twist I thought was pretty dumb. Just the overall story of it, I did not enjoy. And while the one thing I'll give it is that it is a fast read, I just didn't like this manga. Now, I'm not saying that this is like the worst thing ever or that this is absolute trash, but for me, everything in this series just seemed kind of average, and that's why I got rid of it and didn't want to keep it in my collection, because it's definitely something that I knew I wasn't ever going to want to reread, and that's definitely a big rule for something to stay in my collection. Another thing I will say is the art. Again, very generic, very bland. Character designs, very generic. The main character literally looks like the most generic, like, manga MC of all time. All of the characters are just so stereotypical and very tropey, and like, I can accept tropey characters most of the time, but at least have something that sets them apart. But there's really nothing that sets these characters apart. And with this series being so short at only 6 volumes, 2 omnibuses basically, there's really not enough time to flesh out these characters and for me to really even care about them, their deaths, or what's going on with them. So yeah, didn't really enjoy this one. I know that a lot of people are fans of this, so if you like the kind of killing game, death game type of thing, honestly, I think there's a lot of other manga and other media, movies, video games that do it way better. So I wouldn't really recommend this one, but if it piques your interest, then maybe check it out. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Doubt. So now to get into some manga that I actually did think was incredible, and this series does make it to my manga of the month. And the series in question is Made in Abyss. So I did read volume 1 in September, and this month I read volumes 2 through 5 of Made in Abyss. And I've got to say, I absolutely love this series. I can definitely tell that this is going to end up somewhere in my top 10 manga series as of right now. I do think that there are some issues that I have with this manga. Some of them being very obvious. If you have heard of this series, then you know about some of the controversial things. So I do want to say there is a trigger warning for this series. Pretty much all of the main characters are kids and they're underage, and there is some nudity. There is some really messed up things that happens to these kids in this series, some of which, mainly the nudity. Definitely, I think the manga could have gone without adding some of it, or if not all of it, in this series. But it doesn't distract too much from the fact that this story and this world is one of the best that I have ever experienced, just in general. Made in Abyss is basically a manga about this giant abyss and these characters that are wanting to explore it. They're put into a situation where they want to get to the bottom of the abyss. And the whole twist with the abyss is that if you try to go back up, if you try to ascend from this abyss, there are really big consequences. So there are different layers to the abyss, and depending on which layer you're ascending up, it really damages these characters' bodies in different ways. Like the first layer is just like nausea and vomiting, and then the lower you get, the more destructive it gets. And we do experience a lot of the curses of the abyss in this manga with some of these characters, and it's just downright horrifying. This is one of the most brutal manga series I've ever read, and the covers just look so cute and adorable, but that is really not what this series portrays at all. But I just love the aesthetic and just the environments and the, characters in this series, especially once we get introduced to some of the other characters that we meet inside of the abyss, such as Nanashi, and the main antagonist that we meet around volume 3 and volume 4. Just such a crazy villain in this series, and just everything that happens is so crazy, but I absolutely loved it. And so I can't wait to read more of Made in Abyss, and I am planning on watching the anime as well, as I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this series. I would say definitely check it out, but know about the trigger warnings before you get into it. I would say definitely look up more about it if you're looking for specifics, but if you think that's not really gonna bother you at all, I would say go ahead and read this series, or at least watch the anime, because I know that the anime doesn't have a lot of the controversial things that the manga has. But yeah, either way, can't wait to read more Made in Abyss. And with that, guys, that completes my reading log for October 2021. I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and if you did, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you do enjoy my content, then hit that notification bell so you can get notified every time that I upload a brand new video. Make sure to follow me on all of my social media links, such as Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. The links to all of those will be in the description. And with that, guys, that does it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.